Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. I'm your host, Sir Stephen Topham at the third at your service. Now we're going to talk about something seriously now. You're probably asking yourselves in your head, where are the missing STEAM team members? Well, we're going to start off with Generation 1, because I think you should have know why this is all important, which is true. Between Generation 1 and 2, there are a lot of engines that we all seen on the TV show and movies, and they are personalities to real life people, may I add. But we're going to go through every one of them as possible as I can do at this present time. A lot of you out there who still don't believe this is all realistic, just ask yourself, what's come out of my mouth? Well, because I'm third gen, I know everything that the second gen and the first gen had taught me. So, realistically, now it's time to tell you about the first engine on the island. Obviously, in the olden days, where the railway was at its prime, as we all know it, right, to a certain level degree, you're asking yourself, where's Sodor Steamworks? You know, where we get mended and everything else. And then you see Victor come out. Let's talk about Victor, right? Who is actually my great uncle on my mother's side of the family. So, with that being said, my great uncle Victor lived next door to Dr. Hatt. So, when that all, what? Victor lived right next door to you? Well, it's true. He used to do what you would call, when Victor was in his prime, he used to be on a ship called the HMS Hood, which is true, which got nearly destroyed, may I add, and he was one of the surviving members. He married my great auntie Adelaide, who's a pigget, may I add, and got married and lived at next door to Dr. Hatt's family. Ding ding, obviously. Yeah, well, Victor is my mother's uncle. Now, bing bella boom, things are starting to add up, right? You have Henry Cooper, and then you've got Victor. Henry was living with us, my grandfather, which is my mother's father. So Henry was living with us at Crosby. They all lived at Crosby, next door to each other. Why? Because they were safeguarding me at the time. But when I was in my early years, as time progresses, everything was normal, but something is wrong. You know what I mean? Definitely wrong. So the steam team at that time, we were at our prime, we were at our peak. We do fight back. We do everything by the book. We just we just do it, all right. We have the motives, right? So when Victor was growing up, he had two children of his own, and a lot of this says Judy. Now, where would Judy fit in all of this? Breakdown train. Oh God, that's sir. That is correct, Thomas. In every angle. So when you think of Judy, right? Judy and Jerome, the breakdown trainers. Who does that think of it? Well, Judy is my great uncle's daughter. So, with that being said, Victor was alive and well, but his my great auntie, who was living next door at the same time, had a angina attack all night. So Victor became a widow because she passed away. So I was up all night that night, hearing it all. So when you think I'm not hearing things or eyes and ears everywhere as we do, we are picking up the pieces, as they say. And then a lot of people say, what? So Everybody wants to know, how did Sodor Steamworks working around all this? Why? It's actually my great uncle's old garage, car garage. So when Victor used to come out a lot, he used to do a lot of gardening, and obviously, as he does. And then everything fell into place. Joshua Hatt was only a small young lady, a small girl, not married to the Hatts yet, at the same time. So while all of this is all progressing forward, right, Joshua Hatt got married to the Hatt family, member of the family, from Coopers to the Hatts. So the other things that we're going to talk about is the missing engine. One of my missing steam teams is Henry. Now, Henry has been living for a long, long time, right up to his 80s, early 80s, I would say. And Henry was living next door. This is another engine because we are going through every one of them that's missing from the generation 1 and possibility generation 2. Henry had different shapes and forms all through this life, right? And then Henry was my grandfather, best friend, and connection, right? Family, friend, and connection. It works that way, right? And my grandfather on my mother's side of the family had a brother called Charlie, who is also on the steam team list. So when we all have all of this flowing in, flowing in, and flowing in, and you're listening to this very carefully and thinking, oh shit, yes, it's my family. So work it backwards, and then you're ending up going forward, forward, forward in time. Now, we are getting to a point of time where you're missing all these steam team members, and then people start to work it all out slowly, piece by piece by piece. I don't need to give out all the evidence straight away in one silver platter for everybody, right? So Victor, Henry, Charlie, and then you got Lily. And then everybody asks, where is Lily? My great auntie Lily died long time ago, right? But that was my grandfather's sister, older sister. So when you put all of these pieces together, you mean you've been everywhere? Yes, I have been everywhere after all, and I don't BS, right? So when my grandfather was in his prime, he started in Guildford, near London. So there's Henry. He went to see Wizard of Oz. He went to, he saw a parrot, said a lot of rude words, may I add. And he said, little bugger you, you little bugger you, you little bugger you, you little bugger you. And this is my grandfather's story, Henry Cooper. So everybody's saying, what is next on your steam team? Do you know who else is on the steam team? Jackie Cooper. Right? This is for the EDP as well, because they're going to wake up and smell the coffee now. And they're going to write all of this out on the newspaper and put me right in the newspaper ASAP. And when they realised it started at the early 1900s, you all screwed up. So work it all out, go backwards and forward, 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 backwards and forward, and it will click. Whose families are connected to the Thomas franchise? It's all there in black and white. So you've got Jackie Cooper saying, this is the big news, big headlines. You know when Superman revealed, went to Metropolis and he saved Lois Lane and it was all in the newspapers? It's just like that with the Fat Controller. Third gen. You got me right there on a silver platter and bang. A lot of people say, where are all these missing engines? They're gone. They're history. Right? We move forward with the second gen and the third gen. We're all coming back every time. So every time the Hatts have to get married, produce another Hat in the family. Third gen, it's the father, donk donk. Then you got my son Richard and Emily. Then you got Emily Helen Hat, which is my third one on the list. So then when you all look at me now, ask yourself the biggest question. Why do I have so many connections? Right, let me put this in another perspective for you. You know my great uncle Victor, you know my grandfather, George Henry Cooper, we call him Henry for short. And and then you got Joshua Hat on top, right? She was born on 14th. Joshua Hat was born on the 14th of January 1959. 10 years later, Bing Bada Boom 1969 of the Island Swan Song for all the steam trains. All 2,000 steam locomotives got scrapped by Dr. Beeching himself. He also dismantled all the railway lines. So, with that being said, my mother doesn't have much knowledge on this, so don't ask my mother for every answer because she won't have it, because she's epileptic. So what do you do with that? You can't do nothing with that. That's why you lost 30 years. So you got Joshua Hat and you got Stephen Topham Hat the third, bang, all in silver platter. But then you realise that my great uncle, my grandfather, duck, quack quack, obviously, and then you got him on the line, and then everybody fits in the puzzle, right? But not everyone's gonna tell their story, right? Which is true to a point, and it all makes sense when you look at yourselves. Now we're gonna talk about another load of steam trains that are coming your way, right? You probably realise they are from Royal Norwestern's timeline. The names are there in black and white. I don't have to give out names because they're all online based at the moment to begin with. Right? I used to have a friend called Duncan. Now, you may think he's rock and roll and he's rock and roll down the line and he come off the rails and I told him how bad as an engine he was. Right? I had to do the same with Smoker. Right? Smoker was a generator. Why? Because he was a naughty engine. So you got Smuggler as well. Duncan is another one on the line as well. Then you have all of these other engines on the line, and then you're working out how does he know so much about the franchise. I said, guess what engine we don't often see around Norfolk? What engine do we not see around here? And she's the missing one. Let me put this in perspective. Don't we call her name out? Just for the sake of argument. Because she's the heart of it all. Reverend Mother Audrey started it all, yes. But, in all plain eyesight, as I'm standing up right now, I'm now telling you who that missing engine is. She's part of the steam team, yes. We had calling cards from her. We don't need to be lectured. Because we know what we are doing. Right? A lot of things you may think, who is the oldest engine on the island of Sodor, but she doesn't come to the island of Sodor? Which engine is it? The engine is well known to all of us. For 8 billion people, she's one of the missing steam team members. Very close to heart for me. Thomas the Tank, myself, Edward, Henry, Gordon, James, Percy, Toby, Duck, all of Team Fleet, steam team fleet. Poof. Then you have Victor. Then you have all of that incorporation, right? Which one of the engines do you think I'm thinking of? Now, I'm trying to be helpful here to a lot of degree, giving a lot of people a lot of facts and truth. What one engine was is in real life as it is in fiction. So the answer is I'm going to summon her out. Why? Because she's needed again. I may be the fat controller third gen, but I know if she's hearing this right now and she's really looking right forward to it, what engine in the entire franchise is part of the Steam team, but she's not in the Steam team directly. She's part of the Steam team, but she doesn't reveal herself unless there was an emergency. Same as me. So work it out. Let me put this in perspective for you. We all watched Thomas and the Magic Railroad, right? Thomas and his friends, which excludes Edward at this point. Which engine am I thinking of? This is no bullshit to the point at all. Missing Steam team members. What? Who is the missing link? Lady! That's the purpose, sir! That's right, Thomas. It is Lady after all. And it is Brett Allcroft, everybody. And that is the truth. Brett Allcroft is Lady. So she hasn't been to the island Sodor for a very long time. And she hasn't. She's probably stuck in a workshop doing what she does best. But she always keeps an eye on all of us. So, when you think that Lady doesn't exist, ask yourself, who's the personality to Lady? Brett Allcroft. So, when Reverend Robert Audrey gave the Thomas franchise to Brett Allcroft to make a TV show out of it, the realistic version of it was already in motion before they even got their hands on it. So, the realistic version is still playing out. So, when you got the Steam team, the missing members, and you got a Lady on top, ask yourself the biggest question: why is she being summoned back here? Because the Hatts need her. Because we all need each other. Because we are family, friends, connections, and colleagues. We are taking this very seriously because it is not a joke. So when Lady comes to Norfolk, she's on the island of Sodor. So when you think about it, sit down, have a cup of tea. I didn't realise that Lady was a missing engine and missing part of the Steam team. Correct. I dream about her every night. Why? Because I'm getting messages, clues, answers. So stoke up the magic in the mountain and the Lady will smile. What's the world that spins so well? So work it out. So when you think that you're missing the Steam team, all of us are here, live and well. So when Britt Allcroft / Lady comes back to the island of Sodor, she will fit in the last piece of the puzzle and reconnect with us all. Because like she always said, calling all angels, she always appeared in my dreams. So when you think you got Victor who's missing, You got Henry that's partly missing, but the third geners are all coming through. The second gen are getting all this information. So what makes it the package deal? You're getting the information off me because the first gen never told you. The second gen may have it and not passed it on to their third. But in the end of the day, Brit Orcroft, first slash lady, has watched us all from beginning to end. And her life is still going. And she's still pulling it off. But the biggest question of all, the real life Thomas Tank has always been around you. Eyes and ears everywhere. We know everybody. Eyes and ears everybody. So when we look back and realise what? How could this be? Well, Reverend Robert Audrey already knew our families beforehand. And he chose Willie wisely. So, when it's all been drawn out, you know what I would say? And I'm being honest with everybody. Be glad what you got because we are going to continue the legacy and put it all in destiny. My timeline's a little bit what you would call a bumpy ride in the long run. But the truth will always set you free because you're learning, you're adapting, you're realizing people that know me personally, they won't harm me a fly because I'm too honest. So when the Norfolk Railway think they got their hands on something that is like, what the hell? They're gonna say, right, I'm out of this business because I can't run this business. I can't run the Norfolk Railway because it's all going downhill. Well, I can, they can't. So when I'm on the platform, I make sure everything plays out smoothly. If I'm not there, there's going to be riots. There could be destruction. There could be everything will be destroyed up there, right? Let me give you another example. One of the engines up there with number 22, Cash 22, right? Everybody's going to wonder why is this engine connected to Wild Norester? Wild Norester already seen this played out before you did as well. So work it out. Go backwards, go forwards. You got my grandfather on both sides of my family knowing this information, and then you got Victor on top. Then you have Lady. Then you have Reverend Robert Audrey. Then my great uncle Herbert Cossey, Herbert William Cossey. On top of that, circulate it. Then you're working out. Oh shit! Right. The big thing about it is that you've been watching Thomas and Friends directly in your own eyes. Not a children's game. It's been realistic since the early 1900s and the 1500s. Work backwards, forwards. And we're going to be talking about in my next video what is a lot of things that I know you may not understand. Some things that I might say you will understand because you are my level. Right? So people will understand explicitly. Lady is watching all of us and I'm watching her as well. Why? Contact. Keep in contact with eyes and ears. We don't have to speak to each other because we are private contacts. So when you all look at it, you got my family, you have Lady Brit Orcroft. On top of that, then Reverend Robert Audrey, then Christopher Audrey, then his son Richard. Well, so let me tell you a little hint. This is why the next person to carry the name Richard is my son, Richard Topham Hatt. So, when that all plays out nicely, the way it should, with no interference or anything like that, it should play out nicely. But with Victor, He's not alive anymore, but a third gen with his personality might jump in and say, I will take your great uncle's place. Ding ding. Then with Henry, that's the same thing. You know, we're not going to lose the steam team because there's more of us floating about. So when you think that when you approach me, use your code name. Don't use your biological name because sometimes it could be an anagram. And and I'm going to be talking about something else on here while we're at it, just to clear it all up. To a lot of people that don't understand what's going on, you are witnessing the real life version of Thomas and Friends from beginning to end. And you're also getting it as a time loop to prevent the destruction of this planet. So when you think about it, it's going backwards and forth, like a time loop. And then what happens? Every time a Hatt member of the family marries a one individual in the family, doesn't matter who it is, they could work for you or work for me, vice versa, and they could still get married to me. Why? Because it's a secret timeline. Timeline. So with that secret timeline being played out in front of you, just ask yourself a magical question. The magic you refuse to believe in will always get the better of you because you're not looking at it. But if you understand it now and cleared your mind of it and realise he's not cuckoo and all that shebang, you know, all the engines that got affected by NHS, right, or the steelworks as an example, stay away from that place. You know, if you're intelligent, you're intelligent. If you, a lot of people think there's a lot of problems here, but there isn't. There's never had been a problem. So he's been fired. He's been backfired. The NHS, and it's been happening since the early 15th century. So you have 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, and it goes to the 21st century, then the 22nd, cash 22, and then people will add it all up and realise it was a true life, real life event. So you can't mess with certain people, especially like me. I said, look, the people that I met in the in Helston Hospital, as example, as a steelworks, they should all be fired. All the nurses could stay there, but the actual doctors should be all fired because they always ended up with the wrong collusion in the end. So with all the steam team being the good guys, then you have the diesel team trying to throw it all off, work it all out. It was all played out and all correctly in front of you. So, with all that being said, the missing steam team members of the actual this place is Henry, the first gen, Charlie, the first generation, and then you have Victor, who is partly first to second gen, and then you basically have the rest of us, the third gen. So you got the fourth and the fifth generation ready to be lit up. So work it all backwards and go all the way forwards. The answers will be there in black and white for you. Thank you very much indeed.